Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was The Chosen Season 4, Episodes 4 through 6, making $3.6 million this weekend domestically, and that total stays the same worldwide as it hasn't been released in any international countries yet. Yet another batch of episodes from the 4th season of The Chosen have premiered in theaters, and fans once again rushed out to see these episodes on the big screen, once again showing how massive of a fan base this show has, and the fact that these fans will continue rushing for even more of these episodes on the big screen shows how much value they have in the theatrical viewing experience, as opposed to just waiting for them to drop on their TVs, which I think is fascinating. This does seem to be working out for the better for the studio behind The Chosen, and it certainly looks like it's going to keep going. I think there are a couple more episodes that are going to premiere for 2 weeks, just like this one and the season 4 premiere. So be on the lookout for more episodes of The Chosen at your local theater and in the top 5. It doesn't look like The Chosen's going anywhere at the moment, and even though once again I do feel like this is going to follow a similar pattern that the other Chosen quote-unquote movies have, which is they do very well on their opening, but then they plummet afterwards. They don't really have solid word of mouth. They're very front-loaded. These are still very solid numbers, and once again it shows how big of a fan base and how beloved this series is. So yeah, not much more else to say except good job. Number 4 was Migration, making $3.8 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $116 million and a worldwide total of $256 million. So large in part due to the fact that it was President's Day weekend, meaning kids were out of school for the weekend, the movie still had an incredible hold, and in fact a really big boost prior to last weekend. It increased 30%, which is absolutely insane, even taking out the President's Day holiday. This is a crazy big hold. Word of mouth really took off for this movie this weekend for sure, and because of that it is just $2 million away from surpassing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem to become the 4th biggest animated film of the year domestically. Worldwide it has already done that, as it's not only surpassed Ninja Turtles but also Disney's Wish, where it still stands behind Elemental, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and the Super Mario Brothers movie. Yeah, this movie seems to be doing very well. As I've said before, even with it being the lowest grossing animated film from Illumination, still not going to crack those Secret Life of Pets 2 numbers. These numbers are still very promising to see. It seems that it's taking off in some of the other international countries like the UK a bit more now, since it released a couple weeks ago, and once again it still has not only a couple weeks left until Kung Fu Panda 4 hits theaters, but also a couple weeks left until it hits Japan, and I'm sure it's going to take off there. So hopefully that also helps it get over some milestones. Maybe it can get to 300 million worldwide. In terms of worldwide, I don't think it's going to surpass the Lorax, but if it can get to 300 million again on a $72 million budget, this is still a very solid total. Once again, Illumination still knocking it out of the park with these animated movies. Even their lowest grossing animated film is still a moderate box office success. Not much more else to say except props to you, Migration. Number 3 was Argyle, making $4.8 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $37 million and a worldwide total of $77 million. So the film is now 23 million away from 100 million worldwide. That's something. That's an accomplishment, and it's gonna surpass 40 million domestically. That's also a positive, I guess, but yeah, still, even with the film starting to pick up steam, it definitely held better than its second weekend prior. This is still a terrible result. There's just no way around this movie. Once again, it may bring in some new subscribers to Apple TV Plus, but as far as theatrical business goes, at least it was a new movie, I guess. But in terms of success, no, there's no salvaging this. This is a big flop, and is looking like to be one of the biggest flops of the year. Already it's one of the biggest flop. It is the biggest flop of the year right now. Maybe it has a couple more weeks left in it. Again, we are in a bit of a dry spell at the moment at the box office, but yeah, just Just nothing more else to say. What a colossal disaster this movie has turned out to be. Number 2 was Madam Web, opening with 15 million this weekend, and since it opened on a Wednesday, it adds to a domestic total of 26 million and a worldwide total of $51 million. Since this is the only superhero or comic book movie released right now, of course, this is the biggest opening weekend for any film released in that genre. But as far as everything else, this is the 5th biggest opening weekend overall. It knocked Night Swim and Lisa Frankenstein out of the top 5, but it still sits behind The Beekeeper, Argyle, another movie we will get to shortly, and Mean Girls. It is also the lowest opening ever for any of the Sony Marvel films released, opening behind Morbius, Venom, and Venom Let There Be Carnage. I knew this movie wasn't going to do all that great. I just had the hunch, but even I was a bit shocked that the film couldn't even surpass 20 million. I thought it would at least do that, but unfortunately that just didn't seem like it was gonna happen. Unfortunately, there was just no interest for this movie at all. That what little interest there was really dwindled as we got closer and closer to the weekend. I read reports that even on opening night, audiences were starting to refund their tickets due to the bad word of mouth that has spread because of how bad this film is. Speaking of that word of mouth, yeah, a lot of people do not like this movie, especially audiences. It got a C plus on CinemaScore, which, by the way, is on par with Morbius, and we all know how that movie did at the box office. And this movie's looking like it's going to do even worse, as the budget is said to be around 80 to, at the very least, the low $100 million range. And seeing as how low this opening is, things don't look pretty. Worldwide, it's made roughly half of that, so there's a good chance the movie will make its budget back, but doubling it, I think that's very unlikely. There's just no interest in this movie, unfortunately, and the word of mouth is just really hurting this movie. The movie's just not appealing to pretty much anyone at the moment, and if they really wanted this to be like the start of, like hopefully to get people back into it and excited for these other movies, like Kraven the Hunter or Venom 3, boy, did that backfire on them. So yeah, this is a pretty terrible start for Madam Web. I don't see this movie doing any better in the next couple weeks. It's going to take a miracle for this movie to bounce back. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, which was Bob Marley One Love, opening with $28 million this weekend, and since it also opened on Wednesday, it adds to a domestic total of $51 million and a worldwide total of $80 million. This is the aforementioned second biggest opening weekend of the year. It missed out on topping Mean Girls by just $200,000, but given how close the numbers are, it wouldn't surprise me to see them flip-flop in the future, so you may never know. But it was still able to top Argyle, The Beekeeper, and Madam Web. It also scored the biggest opening day in Jamaica, which is also really cool. After quite possibly one of the longest slogs in box office history, we finally had a new film coming out and really shake the ground, break new ground in terms of openings and delivering on box office expectations, as this well surpassed many people's expectations. Initially, people thought it would do all right, maybe maybe a little bit better than the Whitney Houston movie, but no, clearly that is not the case. It had a really solid opening day on Valentine's, I believe the biggest Valentine's Day opening ever, and continued throughout the weekend. There were a couple days where it slowed down, yes, but as we got closer to the weekend, it really started bringing momentum. It's clear to see which movie that came out last week really had a lot of people's interest. As I said last week, Bob Marley is one of the most prolific musicians out there, and a lot of people wanted to hear this story, and people seem to be really liking this story. It got an A on CinemaScore, and it's been killing and overperforming since. The movie cost $70 million. It's already made $80 million worldwide. It's going to surpass that budget domestically probably in the next couple days. And from the looks of it, it may be one of, if not the first film of the year to surpass 100 million domestically. It's still got some time before Dune 2 really shakes the doors down here. But as far as, Bob Marley, I think it's gonna beat Dune or get close to beating Dune for the first film of the year to surpass 100 million domestically. But yeah, once again, overall, this is a great start for Bob Marley, a much needed box office success right now at a time when, one of the biggest slogs we have ever endured at the box office. It's nice to see that we finally got at least one movie to really surprise and open to such a solid number here. I'm looking forward to seeing how much further this movie can go. Hopefully it maintains its word of mouth and doesn't fall off, like The Color Purple or the Whitney Houston biopic. But as far as things are looking right now, this is looking like a much better performance than those movies, looking like a much bigger movie. And yeah, things are looking pretty solid for Bob Marley. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend. And normally this would be the part of the video where I discuss the upcoming new releases and seeing where I think they would land in the top 5. And even though we do got a couple of wide releases, there's a new Demon Slayer movie, Ordinary Angels, and Drive Away Dolls, and they are certainly going to shake up the box office. I'm not expecting a big shakeup from any of them, as the marketing for them all has been pretty lackluster. I haven't seen too much promotion, and the buzz on them as well hasn't been the best, not seeing a lot of people talking about them. So while again, I'm sure that at least 2 of these movies are going to shake up the top 5, it's not going to be by much, at least from what I'm seeing. But we'll see how well these movies truly do, as well as the rest of the movies that landed in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.